Hello everyone! So, today I'm going to start with a new series of videos where I'm going to be explaining some basic musical concepts and try to make it really quick, really easy to understand, so you can just take this knowledge and start applying it to your own track. You won't have to sit through like a 20-minute tutorial or anything like that. You won't be bored with kind of, complicated music theory. So for this first video, we are going to be talking about chords and scales. Now, what is a scale? A scale is a series of notes that sounds good. Very simple as that. That's all you really need to know. Now, you can find a lot of sources online that will just tell you what the scale is. I often just use the key snap inside of a Reaper, which is the DAW or digital audio workstation that I'm using. So to start with, I programmed a little MIDI that is a C major scale. Now, why is C major? Simply because it's the easiest scale to use, the easiest scale to explain. C major is just using all of the white keys on a piano, as you can see here, starting at the C, ending at the C. So this note is the C. And it sounds like this. Simple as that. Now, you can derive all of the chords that you're going to need for your chord progression from this scale. Very simple way to do that is by doing what I've done here. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a bunch of chords. Now, a chord is a single sound that consists of multiple notes to keep it very simple. Like that, that's a C major. So how do you create a chord? The very basic standard chords, and I'm not going to go into any complicated chords right here. I can make a separate video on that later and how I apply some of them. The basic major and minor chords you create by taking a note that we'll call the root note in this case, which is C, skipping one key in your scale, then take the third note, which is called the third, skipping one more, and then taking the next one. So you have your first, third, and fifth. The difference between major and minor is where your third is. So obviously, if we would turn this into a C minor scale, we'll drag this one down and we have a C minor chord. The difference between minor and major is that one sounds happy and the other sounds more sad. So you can apply this to literally every single note, or every single note in your scale. So we go to this one, skip one, go to the next, take that one, skip one, at the next one. So all of the chords in your C major chord progression are in this simple thing. That's everything you really need to know. Now, in order to create a chord progression, you usually start looking at, which chords you want to use. You can always just look up some common chord progressions and start there. There's nothing wrong with using or copying chord progressions that have been used by other people. It's just how you apply those chord progressions with your own creativity. Now, one of the most common chord progressions is a 6-4-1-5 progression. So this means that, and I've got it right here, you use the sixth note, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the fourth one, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the what was it? First one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, I've gone an octave up, but this should technically seem be here. First one, and then we end up with a fifth. So that would be the fifth note, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Easy as that. It sounds like this. Oh, that sounds pretty good. How are we going to make it sound better? Well, firstly, we see that there's a lot of movement, like the notes really go down and then up by big steps. So that's why I had this here. It changes the amount of steps that you take for your progression. It sounds like this. Obviously, octaves don't matter. If you place it an octave up or down, it's still going to sound the same. The difference is the kind of texture that it gives, and sometimes it changes with certain instruments. If you use a string instrument, of course, a higher chord is going to have a slightly different effect due to the resonances of the instrument itself. There, you just need to listen to what sounds good for your chord. Now, how do we make this sound a lot better? Well, that's by just dragging all of the notes in such a way that it, you know, it changes the amount of movement required to as little as possible. So, you know, I would lower that by an octave. In my case, I can just transpose it, but you can also just drag it. So this is a G4, then we make it a G3, as you can see on the right, on the left here. It says B4, it's actually a G3. It's just that because I went up, you know, it goes over the B right here, so it thinks I'm on a B4 with the mouse. And doing that, I created this same chord progression. Now, it will sound a lot different, but it's exactly the same thing. It just sounds a lot better. That compared to, let's change this back to where it was. I think obviously this one sounds a lot better. Of course, you can always use, you know, your creative mind to think of whether you want to do this or not. Obviously, there are certain types of music where you might want to move around the chords a little bit more. It also depends a lot on what other instruments you are using and what they are playing. But this is the basic concept of how to make your chord progression sound a little bit better. Then I've actually done this in strings here, and this is just to give you a little sound. However, what I have done is I kept the bass to move around all over the place. So that way we get two different sounds, you know, and it's just going to sound that much more interesting. And the key here is also to have the bass play your root note, which is a quite common concept that I use in a lot of tracks, simply because it kind of establishes very well what you're actually hearing. So it kind of guides your ears and your brain into what you are listening to. So when we take this chord progression that we created here with as little movement as possible, and then add in the bass, which is just using, you know, starting at the C1, the sixth note, which is here, then the fourth note, first note, and the fifth note, it's going to sound like this. Which, you know, sounds really good. So that's a very, very basic way that you can start playing around with chord progressions. You know, use them no matter what scale or mode you are using. What modes are like Aeolian, Dorian, etc. I can make a separate video on that as well. So, you know, if you just start creating your scale note by note, like I've done here, then apply the chords, and you can just start working from there, figuring out what chords work best for the music that you are working on. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions regarding scales or chords, you know, just ask them in the comments below, and I'll you know, try to answer them. If you have any future videos you want to see, you know, any kind of this format where I'm just briefly going over a concept in music creation, you know, just ask them in the comments and maybe I'll do a video on it. If you like this video, be sure to, you know, click that like button if you want to see more like it. Click that subscribe button if you want to be notified when I upload a video like this or any other kind of video. You know, click that bell as well. Also, if you want to see me do some live music or, you know, play some games over on Twitch, you can follow me on twitch.tv/ValeTheEternal. Link will be in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.